What's up? Hi. It is time. Warhammer Wednesday is here upon us once more. And we continue reading the Infinite and the Divine. It's you, it's me. 'Tis I, the one and only. Mr. Streamer Man. I have my water. I ate some food. I went to the bathroom successfully. We are good and ready to read book. I got the book right here. Last we left off, it was on page 100. We are going to read all the way till page 150. The first wall is a good read while you read. Oh, is that another Warhammer book? Another like Always Heresy. Good job, Streamer Brady. Thank you. Thank you. I take great pride in my bathroom breaks. Anyway, before I get started on this, I want to give a quick reminder that the Try Not to Laugh submissions are still up on the Discord server. Okay, if you want a chance to try to make me laugh and get a special role, you still got time. The submissions will be closed an hour before the stream starts tomorrow. Also, another reminder that the Try Not to Laugh stream will be a Twitch only stream. It will not be on YouTube. It'll just be on Twitch. Hi, kitty cat. This is a good baby. This is a good kitty cat. Are you going to sit in my lap while I read the Infinite and Divine? We must continue our adventures of tracing the Infinite and Orikan the Divine. They like to argue with each other a lot. Isn't it, Red Kitty? What's going on is I'm about to continue reading the Infinite and the Divine. It'll be a live reading. We're on page 100, and we're going to try to get to page 150. Yeah. Alrighty. I guess I got all my announcements out of the way. I shall put that card right there. I still find it funny how I'm just using a Yu-Gi-Oh card as a bookmark, but it's fine. Not like a card I use anyway. It's a cool card, but not a card that I need to use. Is this the 50 Shade of Grey? No, this is the Infinite and Divine by Robert Rath. You know, good old Warhammer book. Yeah. Okay. Where did we leave off at? I know we got it through the trial in the last 50 pages. You're on chapter 5. The trial is done. And it looks like yes, we were in a bit of a flashback here. 9,984 years before the Great Awakening. And I think we're following Orikan. Yeah, we're following Orikan right now. I was trying to remember what he was doing. What was he doing? He was going around. I think he was I think he might be actually be trying to crack the puzzle, maybe, to the artifact that he stole from Mr. Trazyn inside his museum. Okay. I want to start a little bit at the end of page 99 because the paragraph starts, like, the beginning of the paragraph starts on there, and the rest of it is on the top of page 100. Okay. Oh, also, I kind of messed up my pop filter, so if I don't sound the greatest, it's because of that. There's a couple holes in it, but I got a new one ordered. I got a new one ordered. It's on the way. But apparently my nails were really sharp. I gotta cut them. I haven't yet, but I got the nail clippers right here. I'll do that after stream. Okay. All right, let's continue on. Year after year, Orikan's awe grows. Vashani had been a rare genius. Indeed, were she still operational, Orikan's competitive nature would force him to despise her. Rivalry runs deep among Cryptech masters, and he has enough self-knowledge to understand that he is prone to knowledge jealousy. Yet the dead are no rivals, and he is free to admire the mistress of secrets for what she has been. Oh, that's right. I forgot. The mistress of secrets is the we were talking about her, and Orikan admires her because she's dead. If she were alive, it'd be like, ooh, I don't like you because you're alive. Hi, kitty cat. You gonna block my tracking? I'm sure you are. Anyway. At least before she had died so badly. He spends 80 years meditating over her algebraic. Cats don't fight. You all love each other. I know you do. So territorial. Or was I? Oh, okay. I'll just start back from this paragraph. He spends 80 years meditating over her algebraic poetry. Floats free. Trazyn is a man in culture, indeed. Floats free through her astromantic. Yeah, floats free through her astromantic maps, admiring the fine detail work her focus eyes. Admiring the fine detail work of her chrysophrase projections. Chrysophrase. Yeah. Treatises? Devours her treatises on the importance of following an order of operations while casting multi-layered quantum shields. At least, at the last, Orikan finds himself speechless at such obvious innovations. The use of logarithmic. Oh, what's with me? I can't read right now. The use of logarithmic spiral on overlapping fields have not occurred to him. The Mistress of Secrets had been a polymath of unusual talent and singular vision. If a few eccentricities, the logarithmic I'm stumbling on that word. The logarithmic spiral, for instance, its shape appears in her cryosphase reconstructions of the cosmos. whirling galaxies and sucking black holes, making the pattern when in reality they would be far more wild. And as a motive of her collections of algebraic poetry. It is mentioned 6 times in the Vishanic manuscripts themselves. Wait. Orikan summons the manuscripts, enters the patterns to access the Nefereth decryption, lays the glyph text out on a two-dimensional grid, rearranges it via the meter Vishani, rearranges it via the meter Vishani favored in her algebraic poetry, and then, astral hand trembling, he sweeps his palm in a circle, stirring the floating glyphs, chanting the equation for a perfect logarithmic spiral. Glyphs drift and turn, fold and shift, take new places in a spiral labyrinth of pure equations that slowly wheels in front of his disbelieving ocular. Most of useless data drip from the wheeling arithmetic thought form. Modes of useless data drip from the wheeling arithmetic. I know ya. Modes of useless data drip from the wheeling arithmetic thought form like embers falling from a torch. Here rests a pharaoh like no other. One of the kneeling cryptex murmurs, "Behold, the tomb that holds the one who will end the age of metal." Another groans. "He lies within," another answers. "His incorporeal form lies with eyes open." I almost said that backward. Nefereth. They take up the chant. Not a droning rote repetition like the 88 theorems. Yeah. They take up the chant, not a droning rote repetition like the 88 theorems, but an ecstatic ululation? Okay. But an ecstatic ululation is steeped in a passion and trance joy. Orikan looks around, sees blue light blazing from the eyes of his sleeping cryptex. Glowing fluid leaks from their oculars and mouths, patterns on the backstone floor. Nefereth. With a chill, Orikan realizes his empty body has joined the chorus. The wheel of radiant arithmetic glyphs drifts towards the Mysteriosus, mates with it as if the octahedron were the natural creature of its axis, or the natural center. Why did I say creature? Hello? Were the natural center of its axis. As they meet, the spiral spins faster and faster. Quick as a chariot wheel at first, then rotating with the cunning speed of a circular saw. Glyphs on the Mysteriosus pulse with internal power. Beams of energy spear out of every symbol and angle, filling the observation deck with a projection that burns with an astral intensity that Orikan cannot look directly at. But he knows what it is. A star map. Trazyn was known throughout the dynasties for many things. Giving up was not one of them. Even before the transition of metal, his fellows considered him notoriously dogged. Yeah, his fellows considered him I can't read. Dogged. Even stubborn in his pursuits. But immortality had made him relentless. granting a patience that his frail body of flesh could not tolerate. But Trazyn was not, in other terms, a coward. His power plant held nothing but scorn for those who desired an endeavor. But he was willing to admit it when he needed to change his approach. Mandragora, for instance, he exhausted his options on that score. After his endeavor with the meteor shower, a plan that resulted in a rather unpleasant number of disintegrations. Yeah, disintegrations. He abandoned orbital entry. It was certainly true that Sautek were jumped up warmongers with no sense of culture. A middling dynasty at best, coasting on the strength of a few competent generals, and without a doubt, they were far too arrogant for Trazyn's liking. But they certainly knew how to build an air defense grid. Sneaking in via Dolmen Gate proved similarly fruitless. I almost said frustrating. Proved similarly fruitless. 5 steps past the Ark took him into a pack of rather unfriendly canoptic spiders. Yeah, spiders. To ensure he hadn't just been unlucky, he tried twice more before realizing the swarm lurked around the gate on an endless patrol. After roughly a century, he'd taken stock, stepped back, and considered his options. He became too consumed with the puzzle of breaking Mandragora's defenses and forgotten that the Asterium Mysteriosus was a means to an end and not the goal itself. Become, in essence, the short-sighted buffoon Orikan accused him of being. Because even more than quitters, Trazyn loathed those who lacked imagination. Which is why he gathered his cryptex in the archive's reading room, the closest thing to an audience chamber he possessed. They stood around a chest-high table, its sides carved in a turquoise. Yeah, turquoise. I read that word. Its sides carved in a turquoise and gold bas relief depicting the Its size carved in a turquoise and gold bas relief depicting the departure of the Silent King. Their tireless legs made chairs unnecessary. Start with this, said Trazyn, tapping one finger on the tile he collected off Orikan. What is its composition? Sanet paused, his stylus hovering over his phosglyph tablet. There are limits to what I can say, my lord. Certain mysteries of the cryptech order are involatile. It's not involatile. Inviolate. Inviolate? Inviolate. That's not involatile. No. I read it as involatile. That's not it. The punishment for revealing them are quite Sanet, Trazyn interrupted. You have been to my gallery, yes? I have. Then you know that I possess every conceivable apparatus of violence. I believe you asked to be excused from cataloging the Drukhari gallery, correct? Sanet said nothing. To wit, if you truly believe the cryptech masters can devise a punishment more horrid than even the most casual selection out of my gallery, I'm willing to prove you mistaken. It's a time tile, Stanit blurted. When we archive a certain mastery in a school, we carry tokens of our achievement. The higher the mastery, the longer the chain of tiles. Obviously, Trazyn tilted his head. I'm not unfamiliar with the structure of your little cult, Stanit. But they are not merely symbolic, the cryptech added, pushing his stylus away from him as if worried he might spontaneously transcribe his own betrayal. They're essence totems forged from whatever substance our school studies. I forgot to say studied, but whatever. From our school studies. What is this word? Give me a second here. Sometimes I gotta sound it out in my head a couple times here. Kyber? Yeah, I think it was Kyber. Kyber over there is a void master. Voice crack. Kyber over there is a void mancer, and his titles are distilled substance of the gulf between stairs. I am, or rather was, a demolitionist. He reveredly held up the trail of shimmering purple tiles that swayed from his shoulder. These are the blood of the universe, harvested from the wounds created when we tear open dimensional gateways and emblematic of. And this, I assume, said Trazyn, peering at the tile, is a time? Correct, my lord. Pure space-time. When we cast our hexes, the power resonates with these totems. It would still react with its fellows were it in the same. Would it still react with its fellows if it were in the same room? For example, if I stole one of Kyber's totems and channeled a black hole, would the tile heat? Oh, indeed, said Kyber. An ambient energy of the hex would react with the tile, even if it was not one of mine. It is why cryptechs join together in conclaves during battle. The resonance can produce much more powerful hexes, but if it was paired with its fellows, it would certainly demonstrate a strong kinship. So if Orikan used chronomancy while I held this totem, would it become hot? Warm, corrected the Void Mancer Kyber. To become hot, it would need to have been altering the timeline multiple times, and likely the one holding it would experience ill effects, mismatched memories, extreme discomfort. So you're posting he went back in time more than once? Trazyn asked. You misunderstand, my lord, Kyber said it gently. Chronological manipulation on that scale would not be possible beyond even the highest practitioners of their school. One trip back takes a great deal of focus and energy. 2 at most. 3 would be needed to make the totem this hot. Trazyn? Oh, what's up, Daniel? Reading the Infinite and Divine. Would be needed to make the totem this hot? Trazyn projected a temperature reading saved from his engram banks. He is capable, my faithful ones. More compatible than anyone expected. Talented enough to foil the council's verdict not one time, but at least 3 that I can partially recall. He summoned a projection of the puzzle box, and now he has the Mysteriosis. Oh no, not the Mysteriosis, the Mysterios on the crown fold of the Mandragora. I've drawn up a few. No, not a few. I've drawn up new formulations for a Mandragora assault, said Trazyn's tactical cryptech, Technev. Techno. That's funny. It is well fortified as your reconnaissance. It was well fortified as your reconnaissance discovered. An artificial euphemism? Yeah. An artificial euphemism for repeated no, not automation. That's not automation. Automation. For repeated automation. Technev. Trazyn smiled. You shall go far. Technev ignored the compliment. There are no options below a Legion level deployment. Prepare strike packages, said Trazyn. Have the option ready, but I want possibilities beyond direct assault. The Mysterios is merely a map, a means to an end. When Orikan does conclude his research, he will need to come out of his hole to claim the prize. So how do we find out where he's headed? And how can I counteract his chronomancy once I catch him? No one spoke for some time, the whole table working on the problem in quiet cogitation? Yeah, cogitation. There are, said Sanet, then stopped to clear his vocal actuators, which had frozen up in the 3-year silence. There are 2 artifacts that might assist you. Artifacts? Said Trazyn. The skepticism. Oh, skepticism. That's what it is. The skepticism echoing in his vocals. I have searched the catalog 6 times. There's nothing. Not here on Solomon's, my lord, smiled Sanet. Forgive me, but yours is not the only collection in the galaxy. Trazyn considered disassembling the cryptech for his impertinence, but if Sanet had felt able to interrupt him, what he had was clearly good. He nodded at the datamancer to continue. Flip page. And when he heard what the being had to say, Trazyn smiled. It had, after all, been too long since his last visit. The Canoptic Spider's identification beam swept up over Trazyn's death mask, reading the signature from his systematic aura. Satisfied, it bowed down in reverence and levitated backwards and away. Levitated backwards and away, leaving the gateway clear. So he bowed and just like starts levitating and floats back. Okay. Lord Trazyn, it buzzed. Crude vocals static laced from eons of disuse? Yeah. Crude vocals static laced from eons of disuse. Signal might network if you require assistance. Obligated, said Trazyn. He strode through the Groven doorway. Before you access the vaults, continued the spider, I have been instructed to play you the following message. A hatch in the door opened to reveal an orbiculum. A broad-shouldered cryptech guttered into existence. No, that's the word the. The cryophrase data partially corrupted, so his ghostly, blue-tinged form was missing pieces like an incomplete puzzle. Hail, Overlord Trazyn, said the image. Enormous metal beard waggling as it spoke. I suspected you might pay us a visit during our slumber. Transmographer Hurek. Yeah. Transmographer Hurek, said Trazyn. Though he knew the message could not answer, leaving a welcome card. Though he knew the message could not answer, leaving a welcome card. You sentimental thing. Oh, he was talking about that guy. Leaving a welcome card, you sentimental thing. It is beyond doubt that you are in your rights to be here. The archivist of Nihilak, after all, maintains cultural oversight of the dynasty's vault. Nice of you to say. But these are the vaults of the blessed Geddon. Yeah. But these are the vaults of the blessed Geddon, not Solomon's. Examine and study what you will, but I have taken inventory of all collections and will notice any absences. Yeah, and will notice any absences. The nerve, said Trazyn. Not in the least offended. He walked through the projection and continued into the chamber. We remember well the incident on Thelamis, continued Hurak, speaking to nothing, and charge you on your honor. And charge you on your honor. Yes, said Trazyn, leaving the scrambled messenger behind. Understood. He's like, all right, look, you can look and touch, but don't take nothing. Yeah, whatever. Okay, bye. What he was here for mainly could not be carried anyway. The Nihilak treasure houses constituted. The Nihilak treasure houses constituted fully half of Geddon's subsurface structures. Vast and glittering, they spoke of dynastic empire and breathtaking scope. Dynastic empire of breathtaking scope. My bad. This is what happens when a VTuber tries to read. It doesn't go well. Read. I kid. Where was I? Oh, there it is. As Trazyn walked to the golden causeway, metal feet reverberating off the shining surface of the raised walkway. He passed doorways overflowing with fine objects and precious metals. The chambers within filled until they became impassable. Artifacts of long-dead civilizations stood heaped in piles, their surfaces dancing with the light of glittering gemstones carelessly tossed beside them. On his left, a full-size Necrontyr barge, fashioned from platinum, lay shipwrecked upon a pile of rubies. Void silk sails hanging slack in the windless air. Hope you're having a good day. I am having a good day. I hope you are too. Trazyn hated the display. His fingers twitched with the urge to sort, catalog, and display each object in its proper context. But he knew that, despite appearances, Hurak has already done so. This disorganized horde was an act of fiend carelessness? Yeah. Was an act of fiend carelessness. A bit of theater to overawe visitors with Nihilak extravagance and abundance. In truth, Hurak had logged and recorded every coin. Could probably even tell you if it was heads or tails side up. After all, dynasties did not become wealthy by being careless with their treasure. Trazyn dimmed his oculars and walked on the most exclusive vault in Geddon, the Chamber of the Seer. The great head floated in the center of a spherical vault. Hoses tailed from the neck like dangling roots, pumping luminous magenta fluid in and out of the decapitated beast's severed neck. It was squat and it was squat and reptilian, large as a temple, and purported, yeah, it was purported to be the last of its race. Though that race might be, Trazyn did not know. The greatest treasure of the Nihilok, the Yithseer. He entered it across the beast's tongue, approaching the resonance chamber built into its open mouth. As he crossed, Trazyn saw the great bulging eyes blink once. It came slow, like a cloud passing over the sun. Trazyn told himself it was not alive. Not really. The thought of it being otherwise was too disturbing. The horror of being kept in infinite undeath merely to fulfill a needed role. Trazyn banished that thought, it being too close for comfort. A circle of blackstone chairs stood on the seer's mouth, in case the wash of visions made even the hardy bodies of the Necrons collapse. A living metal dome stretched above the chairs, forced against the seer's plate and keeping its jaws open wide. Trazyn sat and summoned a Phosglyph panel, activating the neurographic resonators that shaped the seer's visions into holographic images. Orikan will find the opening point of the Astarium Mysteriosus. I need to know where and when that will happen. Trazyn's sensor suit recorded a temperature drop. Feathery crystals of frost formed on the chill metal of his arms and hands. Around him, the huge mouth shifted, the living metal ceiling groaning in protest. Itchy, 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 itchy. In the center of the circle of chairs, nestled together like a campfire, the neurographic projectors glowed to life. Static electricity prickled Trazyn's arms, snapping and popping as he moved his fingers to discharge it. Above the imagers, blurred images of morphed and changed came into being, then dissipated. Tropical canopy, coral atolls, a world of blue and green. He knew it, recognized it. Impossible, breathed Trazyn. Ah, you see, this time it wasn't my nose, my cheek. It was my cheek that got itchy. My nose is not itchy. My allergies have been upgraded. I have gained resistance. I hope. Trazyn stopped at the artifact gallery on his way out. The object was right where Santa had said it would be. The time splinter cloak, forged from crystallized shards of time itself. An ancient chronomanic artifact that allowed the wearer to see the matrix of the future. Just the thing one needed to shape their destiny. Or negate a particularly troublesome time sorcerer. My cloak gives me resistance to your powers, loser. I'm sure Transmographer Hurak would not mind my borrowing it for a spell, said Trazyn. He is, after all, not scheduled to wake for another 10,000 years. But just in case, Trazyn activated the security bypass. Talisman Santa had provided. When I'm done, he promised himself, I'll simply put it back. Hurak won't even notice it was gone. Trazyn left in a hurry. The security alarms were rather loud. Mandragora, subcrypt, 3,000 cubits below surface. Orikan checked his hermetic field for the 12th time. Ran an operational diagnostic. It came back all clear, repelling both outside atoms and data transmissions, setting the chance of failure setting the chance of failure at less than 1 in 50 million. He looked at the abominable. Yeah, he looked at the abominable being before him and knew it was not good enough. He channeled more power into the field. And after the battle, the thing said, its violence, it's finally chillingly unlike any Necron, growling, spitting, rested our kind, may do what we wish. Growling, spitting, rusted, our kind may do what we wish. I read that like it was like one sentence, but it definitely was not. You may, said Orikan. I will not force you to return. Silence. A form moved in the shadow, circling to Orikan's right. The diviner's perception suit, picking up a gleam of ocular light on bladed limbs. Orikan tried not to look at it, to keep his ocular focused on the twisted being that floated before him. Yet subroutine still tried to calculate whether the aberration on his flank intended to attack. It would be a great service to the dynasty, Orikan said. I care nothing for this dynasty, the thing said. But if you provide things, living things, biologicals for us to kill, we will welcome. His objective achieved, Orikan returned to the tomb's coordinate airlock and watched as the inner door closed and cycled, never taking his gaze off the monstrosities that lurked within. Okay, so I think Orikan might have solved the next puzzle. Like he put the map together and was starting to head there, while Trazyn was like, okay, so he's probably got the map together, so we're gonna go to this other museum to search up information and then grab a thing that will help us counter his spells so they don't work on me. At least that's what I'm getting right now. But we're on the chapter 6 right now, and my God, that took me a lot longer than I thought to just read. What, that was just 10 pages? Oh, good God! And we have 40 more to go, but we'll get there, you know, eventually. All right, chapter 6. Hey, thanks for YouTube shop. Thank you for the YouTube shop. A lot of chapters? It's just a simple 6 chapters. It's not too terribly bad. We fine. We would totally be fine. Okay. Chapter 6. Green running lights hit the atmosphere, swallowed in the hazy yellow-white fire of planetary entry. Orikan felt his internals lurch. The buildup of superheated air molecules in front of the ghost arc, slowing the craft from its void speed of 30,000 cubits per hour. He slowed his chronosense to watch the beauty of it. As the Ghost Ark's ribbed crew bay stood open to the cold of space, ice crystals Colonizing? Yeah. Ice crystals colonizing the bodies of the immortals ranked in 2 lines in front of him evaporated as they slowed. Air molecules built up before the lead immortals, stealing the speed of the craft and converting the energy to heat. Why did I say covering? I'm special. The very atmosphere flared into a glowing shroud around the front of the ark, agitating until the molecules disassociated and became plasma, scorching the paint off the faces and bodies of those at the front. They started forward, headless into the inferno before and around them, did not even turn their heads as the incandescent air? Yeah. Incandescent air slipped past them in wave trials. Orikan watched with longing as those gauzy ribbons of air passed. Reached out a hand to run his fingers through the glow. From matter to energy and back again, he thought. We should all be so fortunate one day. But for that to come to pass, he would need to make planetfall on this world and wipe out anything that stood between him and these coordinates. Establish a landing zone, secure the target, execute the ban, wipe out anything living. What lived on this planet now was unimportant. For though the savage Eldari Exodites might call it Sepharl, this was a Necron world, a frontier planet from the antique empire, hidden and remote, an ideal hiding place for the tomb complex known as Sephiris. Stasis mausoleum of the Nefereth the Untouched. There was no domain gate on Sephiroth. No webway portal. It was cut off, remote, almost as if the Eldari did not want outsiders to discover it. After the birth of the transcendent, that's what it was. I almost said a completely different word. I almost said transcendent, but that I knew that wasn't the word. My brain was like, "Hey, wait a minute, that's not the word. It's a you gotta stop and read it." Okay. After the birth of the, I almost said it again. After the birth of the transcendent hungering thing in the Immaterium, Orikan did not blame them. The flare of atmospheric entry died away. The cool blue of the planet's ocean contrasting with the sizzling orange of the immortals, their metal bodies heated as if emerging from a furnace. White clouds pinwheeled in storms and hung haze over continents. As they bore in, Orikan saw the curvature of the planet slip past as his peripheral. Past his peripheral vision, replaced by the iron hot forms of more ghost arcs pulling up in formation. A pretty world, said A pretty world, said Orikan, to no one in particular. A shame what we are about to do to it. Reconfirm order, responded the Lorm helming the arcs. His confusion at Orikan's undirected statement clear from his voice. Is this a new directive? Disregard. Take us down. This, he thought as the arc went nose down, is why I don't work with others. He thought he was saying something else. Orikan found most of his kind dull-witted and obnoxious even in the flesh times. And and that was before biotransference banished their souls and the great sleep scrambled their wits. With time dulling, even the sharpest of minds, mere arc helmsmen, despite being a subtype of lord, were nearly intolerable. He checked his chronometer. 2 hours until the Mysterios was scheduled to open. Orikan had planned it that way. A sudden deep strike. Make planetfall a month, a week, even a day in advance, and the Exodites might marshal enough resistance to make things difficult. After all, look at what happened to Trazyn. True, the Exodites had received an anonymous warning from Orikan, but they had responded with speed. It did bother him, that fact. Out of the 1 billion worlds in the Infinite Empire, the Mysterios had singled out the world of Sephiroth, where Trazyn had pillaged a world spirit mere centuries before. Oh, this was the same planet where Trazyn took the thing. Okay. And then we got an ad break starting in a little over 4 minutes, so that will be our time to stop for a second. The coincidence was so unlikely, he'd run into the astrolocation program 900 times to ensure he had not slipped a variable. After all, the map the Mysterios projected was not a modern one. 65 million years had passed since the time of the Nefereth. The war in heaven and reign of the Eldari had reshaped the cosmos in ways small and large. Indeed, even the humans' recent civil war had destroyed and reshaped planets. Yet Orikan had cross-referenced the ancient star map with a modernized one. He'd enlarged the target planet and ran simulations on continental drift, sliding landmasses until they formed their current shape. Near 100% match, the chance of identification error sat at 0.00003%. Sephiroth was Sephiroth. It had similar names. Come on now. Ghost arcs pulled out of their dive, gravitational forces dragging at the craft so hard the metal of their ribs groaned. They leveled out and tore 15 cubits over the surface of the ocean, repulsor systems carving wakes in the sapphire water. To his right, one of the arcs slapped through the crest of a wave, drenching the occupants with spray that sizzled on their still hot metal skin. A mass of clouds appeared on the horizon, growing steadily larger as the Ark fleet barreled towards it. As they closed, Orikan could see the shadowy reflection of the land on the underside of the cloud cap. Below a line of green resolved itself on the horizon. An island. Orikan summoned a Fosscliff chart and checkered their heading. This was it. The archipelago. Yeah, the archipelago. 7,000 small, mid-sized islands and atolls dotting the hemispheric ocean. Trazyn had only visited the largest, the continent-sized mass that severed the Exodites' planetary capital. Okay, we're just gonna stop right there. We're still a minute away from the ad break. So it seems that Orikan himself has found the planet that the map was pointing to. So I imagine Trazyn himself is not far behind. Big stretch. Yeah, I imagine Trazyn himself is not far behind on this matter. So we'll see if Trazyn makes it, as well as seeing if his newly acquired cloak will work. I sure do hope it doesn't break so he can return it. Now, me saying that kind of sounds like foreshadowing, but I honestly don't know what happens. This is my first time reading the book. Yeah. Fix myself up here. No, yeah, the Infinite Divine's going great so far. I'm really liking it. Super, super enjoying it. Hope you guys are ready for tomorrow, because what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is something new. Again, for those that are new, I have try not to laugh submissions open on my Discord. So if you want to submit something yourself, you can go join my Discord. I have the on the YouTube, I have the link down below, and then I have the link on just like right under the stream on the Twitch. But you do got to be 18 plus to join. So that's a thing. All right, there we go. The ad break has started. Huh, that's weird. Oh, I forgot to turn this on. I forgot to turn on Mix It Up. There we go. Log in. Log in, log in, log in. There we go. God dang it. Oh well, because like there's a bot that should have popped up in chat that said, "Hey, the ad break has started." But luckily, I have the dashboard right here on the second monitor, so I knew when the ad break started. Great, but yeah, the ad break is going on. So if you wanna get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, get a drink, stuff like that. I'm actually gonna go grab a small little snack, so I'll be right back. I have my small little snack. I got fruit snacks. I love fruit snacks, man. They're so good. Fruit snacks be bushing. Yeah. Yeah. Eat your fruit snacks here. Delicious. I have also realized that my family has gotten pizza from a really good pizza place. So I might go ahead and steal me a slice. That would be more after stream. That'd be way more after stream. I'll go steal me a slice. It went to a pretty good place too. How do I like the book? The book is great so far. I'm doing a. I'm on whatchamacallit? I'm on page 115 right now. Oh, the ad break is over. Okay. Welcome back, people. I was just waiting for this ad break to be over so I can continue reading it. What's the best faction in your opinion? Why is it the Tyranids? No. You see, I like my Skelly boys. I like me my good old Skelly boys. They are good. Miss throwing things at the streamer, Sag. I know. I have to have it disabled. I gotta see if the app updated, and if it did, then I can download the update and then re-enable to throw stuff at me. But until then, I have it disabled so you don't waste your channel points. But hey, look at the bright side. You're probably stockpiled a good chunk. Alrighty. Our wacky adventures of Trazyn the Infinite and Orikan the Diviner isn't going to read itself. All right, let's continue onward. Have you played any 40K games? I played I played a lot of Darktide. I played Space Marine 2 as well. I didn't play Space Marine 1 mainly because before Space Marine 2 came out, I saw an entire playthrough of Space Marine 1, so I knew the entire thing of Space Marine 1. But I did play Space Marine 2. Space Marine 2 is fun. Space Marine 2. A fun game. Fun game. Any tabletop? None of the tabletop. Either this is a Warframe crossover or he misspelled Orikan. Did I misspell Orikan? Oh, I did spell it like the Warhammer Orikan. That is my bad. Let's change that. There we go. All right. I edited the title on oh, that also means this side too is on the Twitch side of things. All right, changed on that and changed on this. So what you doing on the stream exactly? I'm doing a live reading of the Infinite and the Divine. I'm on page 115. All right. Bear with me though. Sometimes the words are hard for me. Anyway, we're continuing on page 115. I'm trying to get to 150 before I end stream. So I got a little bit of ways, but we'll make it. Okay. Oh, that's what that word is. Okay, I saw a word before I even started reading. I'm like, do I even know what that word says? But I do. Okay. Orikan tried to rationalize that. Perhaps it was Trazyn's return from Sepharo. No, perhaps it was Trazyn's return from Sepharo that helped activate the Mysterios. When it sent some organic matter hitchhiking on his frame. Or maybe the gem he brought back. So tied with the world itself, had briefly interfered with the gravitational signature of the room. None of that made sense though, and Orikan knew it. As a seer, he knew there were no coincidences, only confluences? Yeah, only confluences. Time was a river, one that swept along even the most powerful. Eons of study let him briefly paddle against the current, but eventually even he must surrender to the pull of fate. Orikan had a few things more than wasting energy, and to question fate was the most insignificant use of energy he could imagine. Trees and white beaches and line of structures poking through the tropical canopy. Trails of white birds strung out from the shore, fluttering banners. Count 30 to contact, buzzed the helmsman from his womb cockpit. Fingers sliding over the control knob. Control orb. Incoming. A stream of objects whipped past the arc, singing through the air as they passed. For a nanosecond, Orikan had thought they'd driven through a flock of birds. But then he saw the blinking form of the shoreline and dazzling streak of a prism beam. The arc to his left rattled and dipped its nose a moment. Shuriken the size of dinner plates embedded in its prow struts. Something went spinning towards him and bounced off the hull of Orikan's craft. And he swallowed. Excuse me? No. And he slowed his chronosense to see it was a Necron's head, taken clean off by the wicked discs. On the damaged arc, its headless body still stood hunched, bladed arms obediently crossed over its chest in transport position. A pulse laser streaked by, boiling a hole through the rolling surf. Looks like a Zinch demon. You got the colors down. I honestly wasn't even like going for that. I just liked the color scheme. That's pretty much it. Take us under, Orikan ordered. His arc went nose down, ramming like a diver into the crystal water. Bubbles fouled his vision before whirling away to stern. Schools of iridescent fish panicked and scattered. Orikan looked left and right, seeing the arcs plow through the inshore waters, driving a school of yellow proposies? Proposies. Driving a school of yellow proposies before them. Keels scraped the pastel reef, snapping lattice fans and shattering branches of red coral. On the surface, shuriken skipped like rocks, pattering concentric. Yeah, pattering concentric circles of ripples on the water above them. I am so sorry if I butcher some of these words. Looks good, thank you. I lost where I was. Oh no. I lost where I was. There it is. Of ripples on the water above them. Okay. Lasers hit the water and refracted. Lasers hit the water and refracted. Disbanding their power into starbursts of green that left even the fish unharmed. A prism blast carved a channel in the water, but it could not depress far enough to hit the submerged arcs. They cleared the reef. Entered the bay. Saw the sandy bottom rising up underneath them like a ramp. Come up firing, signaled Orikan. Artillery first. Behind him, two dark shapes broke off, rising towards the surface like... I cannot read that. I actually don't even know what that word is. I assume it's a creature? Coming up to breathe. A moment later, a pair of thick red cylinders flashed overhead, carving twin furrows in the water's surface and briefly planting the aquatic world pink. Detonations reverbed through the water in a slapping jolt. And above him, a wave swept back the wrong way. The Doomsday arcs had engaged. Surface, he crowed. His arc soared upward, the tension of the water stressing his footlocks. They mashed through the glassy surface and into a world of light. Sound and fire on this Excuse me. They smashed through the glassy surface into a world of light, sound, and fire. On the shore, a bone redoubt. Yeah, a bone redoubt was burned black. Its prism cannon cast aside by the explosion and half buried in sand. Trees along the shore were afire, their canopies curling and dropping away. Among those branches, Orikan could see the charred forms of Eldari sharpshooters, wraithbone rifles fused into clawed hands. Clearing the deck, the helmsman said wryly. As they say, the arc shuddered with gathering power, and broadside flare arrays unleashed ancient fury. Eldari troops surging onto the shore from the tree line wailed as green lightning stripped them to marrow. Not from marrow, to marrow. Along the beach, a bright lance speared into a ghost arc, cooking off its power plant. Necrons, still rigid in the transport position, sailed from it like enormous hunks of shrapnel. They plowed into sand and splashed down in the water, then were on their feet, pressing the attack. Necrons. Did these corrupt things even deserve the name? They scuttled forward, bladed triptoid legs digging in the sand for purchase. Arms that had once held command staffs and Gauss blasters were now given over to implanted blades. On one, Orikan swore he saw the defaced cartouche of a royal warden. Once they had been nobility, soldiers, guardians of empire. Now they were destroyers, fallen to the madness that drove them to hate all living things. Bodies augmented with chopping blades and double-handed glaives, every angle of their bodies sharp. The Scorpic subtype, obsessed with the whirl of the melee. They rushed into the Eldari on the shore, wheeling and striking, bodies falling before them. A group of raptor knights burst from the tree line and crashed into the combat. One spearing a Scorpec through the thorax with his wraithbone lance. The Scorpec squealed in fury and climbed up the lance, shoving the impaling weapon deeper in its own body, so the long cleaver blades of its arms could butcher both rider and mount. Stumbling on my words here. Then it chomped the lance away and continued into the Then it chopped the lance away and continued into the trees. Orikan dismounted, hitting the sand with a weir of compensating servos that took the impact without a single bent joint. With a conjurer's sweep of the hand, the staff of tomorrow translated from the aether. Excuse me. A tribal warrior in feather cloaked wheeled on him. Prouting in a leap. Okay, I don't know that word. I hate myself for not knowing words. Firing her shuriken pistol with one leg thrown out in a gymnastic leap. Orikan calculated trajectories and steps between the incoming missiles. With a thought, he grasped control of a Gauss flyer from the arc and and repurposed it to strip the warrior to the bone. She'd fell to the earth. She'd left the earth a dancer, as graceful as one of the multicolored birds whose plumage bristled her feather cloak. But she returned to the sand as nothing but a stripped carcass. His divination matrix warned him of a threat from his blind side, and he swept the staff around, splitting a bone sword in two and blasting its wielder backward into the surf with a discharge of arc lightning. The body convulsed, drowning, until the waves rolled its lifeless back to shore. By that time, he's halfway to the tree line. Killing the Eldari felt good. Natural. Immortal foes struggling once more. They were both eternal and perfect in their own way. But while Necrons were beings forged, the flawless features of the Eldari, no less mask-like than Orikan's own, remained flesh and blood. But they were still things created, built and designed by the Old Ones. As much as the Necrons were works of the Catan, confluence, Orikan reflected, not coincidence. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Confluence, Orikan reflected, not coincidence. The cosmos is a structured place. Okay, I want to take a quick pause. My package finally arrived. And what is that package? My new pop filter. One that isn't absolutely destroyed, like the one that's right here, right now. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go ahead and slip that on real quick. Open. 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 Thank you. Did you open? You did not open. 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 Am I going to get scissors? Am I going to have to bend the knee and get scissors? Yeah, I'm going to have to get scissors. I'll be right back. And getting defeated by a pack. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Not gonna lie, this looks kind of smaller. I think it actually will serve its purpose. Or maybe because just it was vacuum sealed, so that's probably why it looks smaller. Needs to take its shape. What's up, Mr. Trexter? I think it'll take its shape better over time. Or maybe it actually just is smaller. But you know what? That just means it's more secure on this. Because, I mean, it's not like it doesn't cover it like halfway. It covers it all the way, so. right, new pop filter. Yeah. This is good. All right, we can continue on. I forgot where I left off. Thank you, ADHD. Oh, okay. No, I was at the very end of 118, now on the 119. Okay. Okay. I found where we were. It is fine. It is fine. It is fine. We can continue on. But he cannot become lost in these reveries? Yeah. But he cannot become lost in these reveries. Only 16 minutes left. The resistance is concerning, Orikan thought. As a doomsday arc blasted another tunnel of gore and fire through the enemy ranks, did their own astromancers, whatever they were called, see it coming? 16 minutes to get a mile inland. Orikan could feel the Mysterios sitting heavily in his dimensional pocket. Impossible as that was. Necrons are low-key cool. They are. Necrons are awesome. They're so cool. They took the gods that made their metal bodies, shattered them, and they're now Pokemons. Like, that's so cool. A fresh cabal of Eldari warriors charged him, wheeling and dancing. Barbed double-sided spears flashed past, scratching his metal carapace. One found the gaps in his lower thorax armor and sank deep into his cabling. He formed his hand into a sigil of Wimby? Yeah. He forged his hand into a sigil of Wimby, summoning a chrono-accelerated aura of radiation from his central reactor. The warriors dropped their spears from weakened fingers and fell wailing to the root-tangled sand. Rashes breaking out on their tattooed skin and teeth dropping from receding gums. I have no time for this, Orikan sneered. He dislodged the spear from his system's guts and tossed it aside. Still walking. 14 minutes. Did he just like accelerate their age and make them old? I think that's what that was. He signaled the two Arc of Immortals, their warriors already dismounting into combat. Override. Take me inland, he ordered. Keep four mortals as honor guard. Signals crossed in the confusion of battle. Two arcs responding. One noticed the other away and swept up beside him. He leapt onto the arc as it passed, maglocking his hand to the skin of the skimmers as it hovered by. Welcome aboard, Master Orikan, said the addled helmsman. Are these new orders? Orikan swore. Models are straight up fire. They are, dude. I think my favorite's either for models, my favorite is between the Void Dragon and the Silent King. Those two are tied for my favorite. The interior of the island was in chaos. Orikan had needed an army, but one that would not be missed. Not an easy task. Remove too many warriors from the vaults of Mandragora, and he'd risk having to answer questions once the dynasty arose. It might have also tipped his hand to the Awakened Council, which no doubt would be keeping tabs on his movements. He could get away with raising two phalanxes of immortals in a few arcs, but that was nowhere near enough for this operation. Which is why he'd brought in the destroyers. The Mad Ones. A strike force that would not be missed. A group kept in quarantine and cold at and cold at regular intervals so their taint would not be spread. Indeed, he would have to destroy every ark used to transport the killers to ensure their data had not infected the craft. The Scorpic destroyers had hit the beach along with the Immortals, but the heavy destroyers, the ones who had modified themselves into floating weapons platforms, had slammed down straight through the jungle canopy. Their purpose was to disrupt the Eldari response, to sow chaos and prevent forces massing into coordinated ruins. The destroyers were doing that work well, drawing enemy reinforcements to engage them rather than reinforce the battle line. Their mad and seemingly randomized. Okay, that's definitely a way to say it. All right, their mad and seemingly randomized orgy of devastation created gasps in the Eldari ranks as they dragged forces to them like iron fillings to a magnet. That's definitely a way to describe it. Orikan cannot see the destroyer complement. Yeah, Orikan cannot see the destroyer complement, but he could see their effect. A searing line of Gauss energy sliced through the rainforest ahead of them. Felling a tree as nearby as any saw. Through the foliage, he could see that the lumbering forms of great lizards headed towards the chaos. The biodiversity of this world was rich. His ocular analytics tagged new species and novel subtypes wherever he looked. Deep in his central reactor, Orikan hoped the destroyers would be wiped out before they could do irreplaceable damage. Left with no enemy to fight, they could scur this island of life, systematically eradicating the first animals, then the largest trees, and even the microbes. Yeah, even the microbes. They would not rest until every living organism, from the hanging vines to the insects living on pond surface and the seaweed clinging to rocks, was dead. They would move on to the next island. Orikan shivered, but he had only 10 minutes left, and for now the destroyers were serving their purpose. A foot larger than any Orikan had ever seen slammed down in front of the ark as they kept A foot larger than any Orikan had ever seen slammed down in front of the ark as they swept around the mountain ridge. Trees collapsed around it, and Orikan leaned back to see the enormous brachiosaur. Yeah, brachiosaur. Tall as a pyramidal stasis tomb looming above. On its back, a mobile battle fortress sculpted from bone, bristling with artillery. The beast's next titanic step swung like a pendulum towards the ark, fated to crush the skeletal craft and throw its crew asunder. He could see the dappled skin incoming the way jungle parasites had burrowed into the thick leather and made themselves a colony in its scattered flesh. Orikan centered his mind. He threw his consciousness backward 10 seconds, instructed the helmsman to bank left, and the ark weaved between the beast's colossal legs, its shadow flickering over them. They swept upwards, riding air currents as the trade winds swept upward. They swept upward, riding air currents as the trade winds careened against the mountains and surged towards the sky. Dark metal howling past dark rock. A shadow casting a shadow. Orikan watched it pass over the rock and dapple over the shrubs that clung to the surface. This place seemed like paradise, but it was likely any other, full of dogged desperation. What are we on? Page 22?
Okay, we're almost halfway done. We're on 122. Trying to make it to 150.
This range, its green ridges and deep valleys that ran 14 leagues along the island's crooked spine, was the work of erosion. It appeared as if a giant had formed a range out of clay, then run his fingers through it, gouging out vast furrows. But this was not so. These great mountains were the work of time and cruel geology. Mounted high by a volcanic hotspot that had created an archipelago? Yeah, archipelago. Where was I? There I was. Then abandoned as the tectonic plate carried the magma eruption further northwest to make new islands. This one had been left to weather through millions of years. Of wind and rain, molding its high fastness. Yeah. Molding its high fastness, eroding its proud slopes, speck by speck. The lively white streams of the waterfalls nestled in the back of each valley. What's that word? Picturesque? Yeah, picturesque though they were engaged in an eons-long act of violence. Indeed, Orikan detected a nagging worry in the back of his neural matrix. What was the Mysteriosis leading him to? If it was an island mark, some temple or pylon, it was entirely possible the structure was gone. The mountain may have retreated beneath it. Yeah, the mountain may have retreated beneath it, leaving it loose in its foundations, like the teeth of the rat-poisoned Eldari. Perhaps it lay dislodged and fallen at the bottom of one of the valleys, buried by volcanic eruption. 65 million years was a long time, even to a Necron's reckoning. It was location based, not keyed to a building. Orikan was sure of it. 8 minutes until opening. Orikan's perception suit painted warnings across his vision. He wheeled, saw spots in the sun, recalibrating his ocular to filter out the tropical shine, and saw Predator riders diving down at him out of the sky. The beasts had their leathery wings back, long heads extended. Their riders lay flat against the dinosaurs, hands twisted in hemp reins and shuriken pistols sprouting from their scrim-washed vambraces. Hi, kitty cat. Come to get pats? Come to watch me read? Yeah? Or did you just come to get attention? Oh, you're such a good baby. You're a good baby. Okay. Petroso riders, warned one of the immortals. Once again, Orikan felt keenly the irritation of being 3 steps ahead of his fellows. So much repetition. Incoming Petrosaurs, added added the crude-brained helmsman, powering up the Ark's flare array. A step behind, Orikan noted, as usual. Disassembling beams tore the air through fountains. Disassembling beams tore through the air. There were fountains of lightning, almost clear in the island's sunlight. The Immortals' closed formation. Short, discipline, blast creating a coordinated wall of fire that would catch the riders wherever they wheeled and dived. Double-barrel Gauss blasters shrieked, their tubes dripping condensation. Yeah, their tubes dripping condensation as the cold of the gases inside drew water from the humid air. Lay counter-evasive fire, said the lead immortal. Choose quadrant. An Eldari warrior dropped from the air screaming, his predecessor blown to ash beneath him. He clawed at empty space with his remaining arm as he fell. Two broke off, backing air with their wings and swooping up behind one of the ridges to shelter in a deep valley. Another rider wheeled and rolled, diving under the fusillade? Yeah, fusillade. The Ark's flyer array howled. The Ark's flyer array howled. Yes, that's how you say those words. But while the Immortals sketched a careful matrix of anti-air fire, the helmsman let loose with an almost gleeful relish, sweeping them back and forth like streams of water from a decorative foundation. Disassembling beams arced and corkscrewed, chasing the diving rider across the sky. Following his loops and rolls, the rider swept in. Its shadow painted Orikan. He could see that the beast's claws open, ready to pluck him into the sky like a rodent. Felt the wash of his leathery wings. Is Orikan going to get sneezy snatched? Probably not. He's got a little future sight in him. They were much bigger up close. The flare array snapped too. The flare array snapped too, and the predecessor dissolved in air. Its feathery ashes washed over the divider. Apologies, said the helmsman, chuckling. That one got close, didn't he? Orikan turned to reprimand the absurd lord when his triangulation significator pinged. Yeah, Orikan turned to reprimand the absurd lord when his triangulation signifier pinged. We have arrived on target, said the helmsman. His mission programming reasserting itself and driving his voice flat. Orikan made the deliberate programming decisions to forget the obnoxious pilot, focus on the task at hand. Helmsman, key auto suspension and slumber your neural matrix. Confirm, the pilot said, head sinking into his chest. Once this place might have been a gentle slope, a ridge supporting a mountain fastness, or central observatory. Now it was empty air and sheer rock wall, a slope that must be climbed rather than walked. Woo! Drink of water. No matter. Secure the perimeter, he snapped, drawing out the Mysterios. The Immortals maglogged their Gauss blasters to their backs and kept on to the rock face. Clawed hands and feet digging deep into the volcanic stone. They spread out, spider-like, hacking down foliage with their axe bayonets to clear fields of fire, and spooling utility cables out from their and spooling in utility cables out from their internals to anchor themselves onto the cliff. Orikan twisted his fingers together, touched fingers to palm, and made Salvar's dual invocation. What's that word? With fierance? No, there's no N in there. Oh, with fierce. That's probably what it was. With fierce concentration, it was fierce. With fierce concentration, he sketched out a circle in the air, drew down the energy of the shining stars, and cast a protective ward around himself. A half bubble that enclosed the arc he floated on and sealed it against the mountain face, shutting out even the immortals that guarded him. The outside world faded. All that stood outside of the circle were mere outlines. Like in the old shadow puppet plays the Silent King used to commission for place children. Perfect quiet. No breeze stirred the plants clinging to no breeze stirred the plants clinging to the rock. The helmsman, inert, made no move. They would not be disturbed. 1 minute until the Mysterios opened. He had done it. Orikan drew the Mysterios out from his dimensional pocket. He could feel its hum matching the song sung by the planet itself. Ever since he'd landed, he could sense it. The rhythm of this place, the thrumming sense of belonging. This was a Necron world. He could feel it deep in his systems. Confluence elements were where they were supposed to be. What are your secrets, little one? Miss Orikan asked. The Mysterios tugged at his hand like a bird wanting to take off. He let it go. It rose in the air, glyphs burning pink. Angles shifted. Faces folded in on themselves and turned inside out. Pink light shifted to amber, spilling out so bright it painted the inner ribs of the ghost arcs in its radiance. What happened next, Orikan could not see, because the shifting puzzle box became so hot and iridescent that it briefly overwhelmed his ocular, blinking it out to white. Bro, we're just looking at the sun. That light he realized might have killed a being from one of the lesser races. Only a Necron would have been able to withstand the deadliness of its shining rays. The same excruciating scholar bombardment, he realized, of their homeworld. The beautiful burn of the Necron-tier's sun that had cursed his kind to an eternity of cancerous growth and shortened lives, a legacy that followed them even after they fled its poisoned light. Alright, we're on 26 now. We're getting there. We're on page 126 out of 150. Not many more pages to go. We got like 20, 25 more pages left. We can do it. 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 Orikan felt a catch in his systems. Had he the capacity to weep, he might have done so in that blinded state. This object was ancient and deadly, a piece of the time before. He felt unworthy even to touch it. Sacredness poured from its very fractured ankle. Gradually, his ocular came back online. Ow. There it is. The Astarium Mysterios had changed. His geomatic analysis counted 12 faces, 20 vertices, and 30 edges. A dodecahedron, perfectly balanced, mathematically exact down to the molecular level. Blue glyphs, their aquamarine, the same color as the planet's oceans, blinked as if making some sort of calculation. Then the Mysterious projected a chronophase hologram. A special image of Sephiroth ballooned around the Mysterios. The whole globe rotating along the Astarium, as if the device were its molten core. Orikan could see the planet's oceans, the continents drifting and realigning. As the Mysterios recalibrated its map to compensate for the 65 million years of confidential drift, continents. Continents tore apart and collided. Islands erupted and eroded into atolls. And on one of those islands, the largest continent island, flared a glyph. Orikan gasped. Yes. Yes. A glyph reading tome. And in Nefereth. I've beaten you, Vashani, he crowed. Orikan, Chronomancer Supreme, the greatest of cryptechs, decoder of the Vishanic manuscripts. I have solved your riddles and unraveled your code. Only I have done this. The glyph changed. It displayed a date. A date over 8,000 years from the current one. Oh, look at that. There's a bot. Banned. What? Orikan's Beatfinic tone fell? Yeah. Another layer? Another chase? 8,000 years of waiting? How disappointing, said Trazyn. Trazyn leaned forward on the command console of the Ghost Ark, the last of the helmsman's features melting into his own form. Are you going to tell me the new orders now, Master Orikan? It had been great fun needling the diviner, acting the addled pilot. Blasting the Ark's flare array had been particularly entertaining. He really had to get out more, he decided. He'd been in the galleries too long. Orikan popping out of left field like, hi. Thank you for leading me all this way here and solving the puzzle for me. How? Mandragora has superb defenses, said Trazyn. But where there is a will, you know, and I have will to spare. In addition to will, Trazyn had an infection algorithm that could, properly inserted, lay the groundwork to make almost any Necron a temporary surrogate. Well, not any Necron. An unprepared overlord, certainly. One who had lapsed in their security protocols. Cryptechs were often out of reach due to their technomantic defenses. But a mere Arc Helmsman? Almost too easy. Especially with the Yithseer revealing where and when to intercept Orikan's strike force. And of course, the cloak. He could feel it heating, detecting a chrono jump in process. A possibility matrix flashed across his neural network just as Orikan's time totems began to heat, and Trazyn picked a future that interrupted the Pex. He rolled his hand over the control orb, rolling the arc 90 degrees so its belly faced the mountainside. Orikan dropped, feet skidding along the deck. Chrono trance broken. The diviner grabbed for the hovering Mysterios as he plunged, missed it, and clanged hard off one of the ribbed struts of the ark. He began sliding into space and clawed for purchase, feet dangling thousands of cubits above the valley floor. "No, I think not, my dear colleague," said Trazyn, nestled secure in the womb cockpit. "I'm afraid your little timeline misadventures will no longer be a part of our rivalry." Oh, okay, an ad break is starting soon. Orikan got purchase, maglocked. He began to rise to a crouch. Trazyn slewed the ark back and forth, shaking him like a foul lion shakes a rodent. Orikan scrambled, barely keeping his grip. "You may have abilities," continued Trazyn, inching the ark forward and seizing the Mysterios, "but I have artifacts. Doubtless, this cloak's powers are a poor echo of what you've achieved through years of study, but it can, at least, countermand your chrono sorcery. Bad form, by the way, cheating at the trial. Extraordinarily imaginative, but bad form. If you think I need to alter the timeline to destroy you, Trazyn, Orikan scrambled to his feet, crouching. Then you're more delusional than I thought. I have glimpsed a future that is unkind for you." Orikan swept a hand across the sky, and the dome field disappeared. 4 immortals looked at Trazyn, their heads rotating nearly front to back. "Incinerate," said Orikan. Trazyn slammed the acceleration glyph. An ark's Neo plowed into the mountainside, grinding an immortal to scraps between the living metal hull and the jagged lava rock. The other three clambered abroad. Gauss blasters locked to their backs, using all their strength to haul themselves up to a hurtling ghost arc towards Trazyn. The time splinter cloak's matrix trilled a warning, and Trazyn ducked hard to one side, sliding his fingers along the control orb in a roll. The world spun, mountain and sky, ground and sea. A bolt of etheric energy streaked by his shoulder, blasting a head-sized chunk of living metal from the ark's curved stern vein. He glanced above the console to see Orikan struggling to maintain his grip, on one hand still cracking with electricity. To maintain his grip, one hand still crackling with electricity. Trazyn pulled the ark out of the spin, rolling back on the control orb to keep them from diving into the ground. The keel slapped a treetop, exploding into a cloud of organic debris. Matrix warnings blared. Trazyn cleared them so he could see. An immortal gained his feet, maglocked and steady. He froze his actuators to maintain a firing position and raised his Gauss blaster. The cloak's matrix calculated interrupt possibilities. 0. Trazyn could do nothing. The Gauss emitters on the blaster looked very big when you were staring right into them, Trazyn thought. Ugh. Okay, bye, Hoyle. Have a good one. The Petrosar hit the immortal like a meteor, its beak snapping at the abominal cables. Claws rending the soldier's living metal. Actuators burst in the miniature electrical storms as the beast
as the best to rip limbs out of joint. It must have been one of the two that broke off, Trazyn realized. They lurked on the valley ridges until their prey was most vulnerable. The rider, wild-haired with a network of geometric facial tattoos, circles and lines connecting, unload an entire shuriken magazine into a second immortal. Okay, we're going to take a pause right there. Ad break is going to start. You know, I was honestly wondering when Trazyn was going to show up. But I did not expect him to be the pilot. But you know what? The pilot was being, like, extra, seemingly, like, being extra annoying to Orikan. And Trazyn most definitely loves to be annoying to Orikan. That you can guarantee. But yeah, I think we're making good progress right now. We're on page 130. We just got 20 more pages left. That's not a lot. That's good. I think it's also like doing good for me in a sense because like I haven't read in like a long time. Like it's such a very long time. It's like especially a book, you know. Like obviously I watch anime, I read like subtitles and whatnot, but I'm talking about like a full-on book. Oh, okay, there goes the ad break. And you know what? This is definitely exercising the brain a bit. There are some words that I'm having in trouble. Like reading. But hey, it does me some good at least. You know what? I do like the Infinite and the Divine. I am actually having like a really neat time. But how are you guys doing? The ones that can still see this and not just from the ad. Hope you all are doing fantastic as I struggle to read. As VTuber struggles to read. Oh, but it is a VTuber. So who would have thought that VTuber would struggle like this? The VTuber will most definitely struggle. Why do you think I'm VTuber? It's a good thing I don't have a job in reading things, like for a living. Obviously, you can't get away with not reading things, but you know what I mean. Like, I'm not out here, like, reading the scribed texts and relaying information, mainly because I have the memory of a rock. Ugh. Having the memory of a rock sucks, though, man. It takes so long for me to memorize things. I'm memorizing. I wouldn't say memorizing, but like I'm understanding like the book pretty well. But I think that's just mainly because like I'm making myself read out loud. If I was reading just like in my head, then we would have a problem. I think I'd just like read pages over and over again, not understanding what is happening. But no, reading it out loud, I can get a grasp of it, so that's good. That's definitely good. Oh yeah, we're not gonna be playing Minecraft Friday. We're gonna switch it up a little bit. We're gonna play Terraria. Play Terraria with Jordan. That one's gonna be fun. Oh, you guys are back. Okay, the ad break is over. Yeah, we're gonna play Terraria with Jordan. We're going to get the achievements, like the rest of the achievements, because Jordan wants to have all achievements in Terraria, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll give you help with that. More of an excuse to play Terraria. So that's gonna be fun. But all right, we're not gonna get through these 20 pages. These 20 pages ain't gonna get through by itself now. Yeah. A VTuber returns to reading. Let's do this. How many pages are there? I think there's like a little bit over 440. Oh, there's exactly 440. Never mind. I thought it was a little bit over that, but no, there's exactly 440. Yeah. We will definitely get through this in time. Going at it 50 pages at a time, I think, is actually really nice. Especially since I can only get through 50 pages at a time with the amount of time I give myself for streams. Anyway. Monofilament discs butchered the soldier. Disconnected pieces and grounded systems crackling with emerald lightning. Next to him, Orikan threw up a kinetic shield to halt the incoming storm of shots. Reactor fluid from the slain immortal spattered his death mask. Wrenching the mauled immortal free, the Pterosaur, the Pterosaur rider took off into the sky, gone in an instant. Trazyn slewed the arc around the mountains, heading away from Orikan's beachhead. With only one immortal left abroad, the diviner, the last thing he needed was to drive himself into another sea of troops, With only one immortal left abroad, and the diviner, the last thing he needed was to drive himself into another sea of troops. To his right, he could see the dazzling array of disassembling beams tearing through the forest. Dancing in the sky, it appeared they were clear-cutting the forest, burning an ever-expanding wound into the island's foliage. He'd looked too long. Orikan leaped over the command console, wrestling for the control orb. The arc sighted in the air, reversing in a wide arc. "You brought the tainted here?" Trazyn shouted. They were moving so fast it was hard to hear. The wind stole his words as soon as they left his mouth. He grabbed Orikan's shoulder guard and slammed their heads together in a headbutt that sounded like a hammer on anvil. "Destroyers will scur this place clean. All its unique wildlife, plant species." Orikan summoned the Staff of Tomorrow and chopped down, but wrestling close they were. The console between them and the wind tearing at the craft, the below lacked force and speed. Trazyn caught the haft. His field enveloped a headpiece, digging only in a finger's breadth into his armored hood. It was their price," said Orikan, reaching for the actuator that opened Trazyn's dimensional pocket. "This is not their world anyway. It belongs to the Infinite Empire." Trazyn saw the immortal leveling his weapon and spun, throwing Orikan between himself and the shot. Gauss tubes howled. Green beams danced above their heads. Orikan shrieked, and something in him exploded. The Immortal's command protocols had warned him to pull the shot at the last minute. but too late. He'd merely glanced Orikan rather than hold at him. He merely glanced Orikan rather than hold at him, or hold him. The heck is that? Okay, whatever. The diviner's back carcass smoldered, and an ashy trench burned through the blue armor. One of the orbs on his crest lay shattered and broken from leaking vapor that scrambled Trazyn's oculars when he looked at it. Incompetent! Orikan threw a hand back at an arc of energy, bisected the soldier diagonally. The wind took his top half, and it sailed reward into the jungle canopy. Not reward. Rear ward. Yeah, rear. Like in the back. I lost where I was. I looked up and I lost where. No, never mind. Here we go. Trazyn was celebrating when he saw the second immortal. The one chopped to pieces by the shuriken pistol. Reassembling. That was the purpose of a ghost arc, after all, to rebuild troops rendered inoperable on the battlefield. Even as he watched, he could see the blue molecular assembly beams spearing out from the top of the arc's ribs, fusing metal and rebuilding layer by layer a Gauss flare in reverse. The immortal raised his weapon. Orikan grabbed Trazyn's head, and he saw something in the diviner's eyes flare. A white chemical fire. A light. His image seemed to judder and blink. Trazyn swore there were two of the diviner for a moment, as if the astromancer were projecting a hologram. His oculars scrolled through filters, trying to identify what was happening. They landed on one moment for checking power systems. Orikan had burned with energy. No, Orikan was energy. His body shone in... Oh god, dang it. More terrible words. Incandescent? Yeah. Incandescent. Transmuted to an astral form of pure blazing power that was battling to take a hold over his necrodermis. To turn his very atoms into pure energy. Heat flares twisted off him like an aura. Nefereth, shouted Orikan. His mouth spewed gusts of solar wind as he spoke. The secret is here, on this world. It stings with it. Trazyn cannot fight his strength. Oh, yeah. Trazyn cannot fight his strength. Orikan's astral hands forced his head to the side, bending him over at the hip, plunging his head to the command console, well clear of his body. Itchy nose. He felt that Orikan might crush him. Heat began cooking his neurals. The head, Orikan ordered the immortal. Take your time. Take your time. The gas blaster raised. Trazyn stretched, reaching out, rebuilding his body to elongate his arm and fingers only an inch more. His vision was failing. His ocular lenses beginning to bubble.
Itchy. Itchy nose. My nose is itchy. Oh no. God dang it. As I said that my allergies, my resistances to them got upgrades. Why must I be lied to so?
Nefereth, gas blaster ray, shows a bleeding bubble. I did not see this future, Trazyn, the diviner said, but it pleases me. Trazyn brushed his fingers on the command orb and smiled. Orikan saw the expression, followed Trazyn's hand to the command orb, looked behind him. The Great Saurian loomed like a building, fortress how death towering above them, legs thick as temple columns beneath. Its great long neck twisted around, confused at the oncoming object. Trazyn disconnected the helmsman's cable, disengaged his maglocks, and let the wind fling him astern. The ghost arc hit the Saurian at 400 cubits per hour, ramming right through the thick cage of bone armor and punching through its ribs. Flesh rippled from the impact, and Eldari tumbled from his back. A great creature, the largest of his kind. Venerated? Yeah. Venerated and feared. I wonder what that word means.
Itchy. My nose needs to stop itching. It's so annoying.
It died instantaneously. Heart ruptured. Oh, okay. Well,
so much for a great beast that was feared.
The great temple column legs went loose and it toppled sideways. From the kinetic force of the hit, splintering trees and clearing a hole in the fortress with its fall. One titanic leg kicked in a death spasm and demolished a stone temple. An incident the Eldari would take as an even worse omen than the great creature's death. Across the island, scavengers would scent the enormous quantity of blood on the wind. Yeah, that was definitely scent. And embark on carry-on migrations to take advantage of the windfall. Whole colonies of carnivorous mosses would colonize the body of the great Saurian, and the lizards that ate those mosses, and the hooked beaked birds that ate the lizards would form their own societies there until the body was nothing but unusable bone. Civilizations, after all, always built on the dead.
That line goes kind of deep.
Orikan foresaw this and cared nothing for it as he crawled from the beast's ruptured chest cavity. Covered in gore, injuries sparking, he turned his mangled head towards the sky. Trazyn was out there, no doubt. His escape already made good. But that didn't matter, for Orikan had unlocked the great secret within himself. Orikan had transmuted to an energy from before. Indeed, it was a well-known practice of the Indeed, it was a well-known practice of the Plasmancer order. One able to take on the energy form could walk through closed gates and overload machinery, channeling ambient power sources into their metal form. They could become nigh invulnerable for minutes at a time.
That's pretty cool.
Some drew that power from solar radiation or by tapping external reactor cores. Orikan, his gaze always upon the stars, drew on the directed energy of planetary alignments. But this had been greater than that. He had sensed so much power surging past him, bombarding him, that his unprepared mind and body could only channel a small part. Had he tried, it would have torn him apart at the molecular level. Yet he had captured more than he expected. All his reading and studying, the esoteric texts, and the orectal works, the very words of Vishani, had impaired a gift without his knowledge. Whether by stars or planets, geography or arcane wisdom, Orikan had briefly become transmuted like the Mysterios, ethereal and empowered like the fabled Nephirath. He had become transcendent, one of the gods like the Catan. Orikan reached inside himself, finding the wet warmth of his reactor leak. The glowing jade fluid coated his hand, and he used it to paint a sigil on his forehead crest. He made an ancient oath, from a long ago homeworld where his kind had been flesh, not metal. Back in those centuries, the oath would have been taken with blood. But now he took it with a substance more deadly and enduring. I swear, he said, his vocal actuators grinding, by the killing sun, by the stars and dust, by the ancestors and the progeny? Ugh. Itchy nose. By my ancestors and the progeny, yeah. I swear to harness these powers and open the tomb of Nephirath. The sky was growing dark. He could see the stars. But first, said Orikan, I swear to destroy Trazyn the Infinite.
Okay, good luck. Oh. Why does my nose itch? Why does my nose itch so badly? It is unbearable. I can't help it. Alrighty. Act 2. Settlement. Curious for just a second. Oh. Oh, no, yeah. All right, so they had a big fight, and it seems that Orikan has gotten some powers. Neato for him. And not only did he swore to open the specific tomb, but also made a vow to destroy Trazyn the Infinite, which is, good on him. He's setting goals for himself, That's what people really need nowadays. You gotta set goals for yourself. That's how not to get ahead of it. That's how you can stay organized. That's the words that I'm trying to look for. It's how to stay organized. And you know what though? Good on Orikan. Alrighty. Act 2. We're on Act 2 of the book now. Settlement. Oh, the chapter's just reset for the X. Okay. Oh, chapter 1 of Act 2. Solomons. 7,036 years until the next Astarium opening. Oh, man, we just literally had almost 1,000-year time skip here. After Trazyn stepped back to look at his work, after 2 centuries, it was nearly finished. At least as far as anything on Solomons was finished. There were always new relics to acquire. I might have to blow my nose. Oh my god. There. Okay, there were always new relics to acquire. I got lost for a second. Anachronistic items and reproductions, stand-ins for artifacts or persons,
to be replaced once the genuine specimen was found. But barring replacements in future renovations, the Horus Heresy Gallery was ready for visitors. Wait, we passed the Horus Heresy? What? Okay. At least if Trazyn decided to have any, once enough two of his kind awoke to see his work, or awoke with minds intact enough to understand it. Well, good for him. He has the Horus Heresy Gallery. Okay, now if you excuse me, I can't take this anymore. I'm going to blow my nose. I will be right back. Oh, that is so much better. My nose feels relieved. I feel enlightened. I feel astonished of what has become. As you can see, I am pretending to use big words, actually thinking that I know what they mean, when in fact, I do not. Now, before I make an even bigger fool of myself, let us continue the reads. Alright. He'd left the largest display for last, and it was a masterpiece, larger than any other in the gallery. Isfahan 5 had provided a rare opportunity to collect specimens. Regrettably unable to make the battle itself, even decades later, there had been artifacts lying around uncovered. Unusual for Astartes battlefields, but on Isfahan 5 had been unusual in many ways, including the number of Space Marines missing in action. Hello. Well, missing to the Imperium. Not to Trazyn. He knew exactly where they were. Knew the posture and pose of each soldier and the direction of their eye line. Even now, he stepped into the display to adjust the cremate placed figure. The salamanders, after all, practice good weapons discipline. And Astartes, like this one, with his back against the wall, shouting to his brothers to throw him another magazine, would not have a finger on the trigger. One small part in a tableau that measured 16 leagues square, but the details were so very important. The communicating authenticity. But the details were so very important to communicating authenticity, particularly if one had to cut corners here and there. Trazyn was, after all, a practical being. If he became hung up on every piece being authentic, he would never finish anything. In general, Trazyn had not been much interested in humans. He collected them, of course. He collected everything. But he considered them to be on the same level as orcs, or various kinds of carnivorous algae. Their spread across the cosmos had destroyed so many more interesting civilizations. And since the rise of the Emperor, their culture had an utter sameness that bored him. If Trazyn cared about the mere ability to propagate and spread, he'd spend his eternity collecting bacteria. Just because a thing was successful and ubiquitous. I read that perfectly. How? Did not make it fascinating. It just made it common.
Yeah, Trazyn is only super fond of the very rare things that are hard to replace. You can take the map of the entire Milky Way galaxy, throw a pin, and you probably just landed on like a couple million humans. Ah, my nose.
My nose is so itchy. But the heresy changed all that. Before, it was an all colonization and settlement. This was history. This was drama, betrayal, struggle, brother fighting brother across the gulf of the stars, empires rising and falling, heroes and rebels. He collected so much that he began to worry he'd gone overboard, especially since it hadn't stopped. Centuries out from the siege of Terra, he'd continued snatching up human artifacts wherever he could. Now he not only had specimens and spare specimens, but spares of spares. And this nomadic existence, these centuries of travel, also helped keep the Astarium Mysterios secure. He didn't trust the security on Solomons, even after tightening the protocols. Orikan had broken in before, but if Trazyn kept on the move, that seemed sufficient to foil Orikan's deviations. Or at least he had not tried for the last millennium.
Itchy nose.
A reprieve for which Trazyn was grateful. The heresy, after all, demanded his full attention. He even had plans to add a grand tableau of the Battle of Kauth. Makaraj was not far from Solomons, giving him easy access to Ultramarines material, and perhaps even the confrontation aboard the Vengeful Spirit. Horus's body was likely being venerated by somewhere in the Eye of Terror. Venerated somewhere in the Eye of Terror, after all, and the Emperor was just sitting there on Terra. It seemed a waste, such a historic figure left to rot like that. Trazyn could not do a far better job at preservation and restoration. The humans probably wouldn't agree. He heard something move, stepped away from his diorama. Sanet? He ran a systematic scry of the chamber. No signatures detected. A shadow darted between the display plinths. The Hall of Armaments.
Uh-oh. Did Orikan break in? He sort of screamed because he said he would say hi. It's fine. Look, the two letters are next to each other, all right? I fat finger things all the time.
It's quite all right. Trazyn summoned his obliterator and walked through the wide doorway of the hall. Plinths rose like a stubby forest. Stasis fields glowing off-white in his enhanced oculars. Scan it, he said. Identify. Nothing. Voice is really nice. I hope so. Hope we don't lose it after I'm done reading this book. He sidled? Yeah. He sidled his back against a plinth containing a long frost blade. Fenris pattern. Its beam edge nicked and scratched. Hard to classify, that sword. The hilt was Crusade era, decorated with kraken teeth, but the blade itself dated from a much earlier. Another image filtered between the plinths. This time, Trazyn caught the comet blur of its energy trail. Come out, coward, Trazyn growled. The hands came through the plinth behind him. The cascading power that blazed from each fingertip tickled him with thread-thin bursts of lightning before they grabbed him and pinned him down. His arms went numb at the touch. He dropped his empathic. He dropped his empathic obliterator. I almost forgot to say that word. How that word is. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, a blast of energy sent it barreling across the gallery. Trazyn heard it clank to the floor far off in darkness. A head materialized through the plinth, twisting around so its jagged mouth spoke directly to his ear. Hail, Trazyn of Solomons, said Orikan, the diviner.
Ah, it is Orikan.
His words crackling and hissing like a severed power cable. I see you have been playing with your toys. A nice display. Shall I leave it intact? Give me what I wish, and it shall be done. Trazyn felt the blazing hand drop to his waist and open his dimensional pocket. I drew out the Mysterios, the yellow sparks spinning from where it contacted the black metal. I'll only take it back, you know, Trazyn responded. It will be a merry chase. I think not. You see, I have cast the Zodiac on every permutation. Yeah. See, I have cast the Zodiac on every permutation of. Trazyn's hand plunged into the stasis field, gripping the Fenrison blade just above the tip. It cut his fingers, but pain was nothing to him. It ripped from the howling field and raked the tip across the diviner's pulsating face. Orikan howled, snapped backwards through the pillar. The Mysterios, unable to travel through solid metal, fell on the black stone floor. Trazyn wheeled, holding the ancient weapon in two hands, feeling its power thrum through him. An ordinary blade would not have harmed an energy being, but Trazyn did not collect ordinary things. A flash. Orikan streaked at him. A lightning strike given from arcane gales howling about him. His star-shaped staff sliced an arc that threaded to bisect Trazyn at the middle. Excuse me. Trazyn parried with the ancient blade, watching it absorb the crackling electricity of the blow, then swept it upward to rip through the energy ghost. It met resistance, as if the thing he struck were made of flesh and bone rather than an inanimate storm. Adamant storm. Orikan howled and retreated, disappearing into a pillar. Trazyn spun, trying to cover every angle. He consulted the time splinter cloak's possibility matrix. It will burn your oculars, the voice echoed. I have sworn the blood feud. Then come do it, said Trazyn. A crackle from the Istvan display. Trazyn set his footing to meet the charge and brought his guard high for for a killing strike. The blazing sparks leapt towards him, plinth to plinth, running through the power systems like a fuse burning towards an explosive. Just follow. Thank you for the sub on the YouTube. Each plinth he passed fizzled and sparked, stasis fields blowing out. Priceless relics tumbled onto the blackstone, their repulsive fields shorting. An entire rack of Astartes helmets, nearly one from each legion, crashed in a heap and rolled across the floor. Nearly one from each. Oh, he probably doesn't have the helmets to the 2nd and the 11th. That's why it says nearly each one. Trazyn tense. Calculated? Yeah. Calculated the timing of his strike. The blade would have one last victim. And in his peripheral sensors, he saw the glowing hand come up through the floor, saw them seize the Mysterios and disappear into a dimensional pocket. And all that reminded of Orikan was his mocking laughter. Okay. There are no 2nd and 11th legions. Correct. They are not there. Because, like, right here, when Trazyn and Orikan were clashing, it says right here, an entire rack of Astartes helmets, and it specifically says nearly one from each legion. So I imagine that Trazyn actually has all of them, except for the 2nd and 11th. So hence why it says nearly one from each legion. Because the 2nd and 11th are gone. The Inquisition have my family. Please help. Sorry, buddy. Can't help you with that one. It's the Inquisition, baby. Who do I look like? The Black Templar? I love the Black Templar. They're pretty cool. Serenade. 5,821 years until the next Astarium opening. Orikan had not experienced hunger in so long, but he was ravenous. Planetary alignment was the key. The stars needed to be right. Star positioning and cosmic alignment, the lines of the universe collecting and directing power in a way that he could channel it through himself, if only briefly. The first time it happened on Serenade, no, he reminded himself that was the human name. It was called Safariel then. The experience had taken him by surprise. Only a few seconds of escaping the physical of unleashing what Orikan now considered his true form. Indeed, it had frightened him. And that his first reaction to this liberation was fear told him more about the person of his body than he learned from whole libraries of study. How deeply had the Catan wrapped them that he was afraid to let go of this constricting, wicked form? How terrible and joyous it was to once again have a soul. Itchy nose, itchy nose. Come on, 143. I got 7 pages to go. We can do this. Please survive my itchy nose. After he'd climbed out of the Saurian body cavity, reborn and slicked in blood, all he'd wanted was for it to happen again. 3 centuries he tried without success. He had time though.
You can do it for the Emperor. Yes, for the Emperor. For Big E. Internal auguries? Yeah. Internal auguries told him that transcendence was the key to recapturing the Mysterios, master of the transmutation of the energy form, and he would master the physical barrier of Trazyn. Study, meditation, experimentation, trance. He cast zodiacs and chronoscopes, tracked the celestial bodies, ran pre-mutations and simulations where he moved the constellations like gears. With Cephariel and Mandragora as the center, Vega rising in the docile of the Thusal, the Cryptek, the Castef, the Pharaon, in the opposition of the Hydra's teeth, the Master Star, Rega. Transisting. Yeah, transisting the 11th house of the retrograde. And he marked the dates and locations when the stars would be right. During the first alignment, he'd failed. The absorption aura broke down under the radioactive assault of the cosmic rays. 2.5 centuries, more study, more waiting. He held the energy form for over a minute on the second attempt. Like those air molecules before the ghost arc, his atoms superheated until they broke down into pure energy and heat, and remained incandescent? Yeah, and remained incandescent until he lost control and re-solidified. Transmutation was not like being an astral program. During that trance operation, he projected his astral algorithm into space, his consciousness floating free from his own body. When he transmuted, his body became energy, and the stronger the power surge, the greater his power. And with the right... Yeah? No, my nose has been itchy for the past 30 minutes. Thank you. Thank you for the tissue. Oh, that's much better. Oh, I can breathe. Oh, looks like you have a Nurgle plague. Time to get the flamethrower. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's not a Nurgle plague. It's cool. It's just a runny nose. That's all. Nothing a tissue can't fix. All right, we good. We clean. We fine. It's all good. Look, infinite divine, Necrons, hee skelly boys, green skelly boys. As the orcs like to call them, the shiny boys. What about the horns? Don't worry about those. These are dragon horns. These are dragon horns. And with the right celestial alignment, he could become very powerful indeed. But finding the right time and place required precise calculation, planning, and patience. The infiltration on Solomons had been only a moderate alignment, one that turned him to a ghost, not a god.
but it was perfectly timed for a raid. The auguries were good. Divination charts predicted success. And now he had the Mysterios. And was unlocking its secrets. The cool blue sphere. Excuse me. The cool blue sphere serenade floated outside the observatory window of his personal craft, Zodiac's Fury. One section on the largest continent, he noticed, stood out brown black like a tumor. It was the size of his thumb if he extended his hand, and dirty smoke came from it, wrapping the planets like a foul griddle. Pity, but it would not hurt anything of consequence. Organic life was such a temporary thing. Inside the meditation chamber, the Mysterios floated in alignment with the planet. Orikan felt the device worked better here. Indeed, it seemed to want to be here. It was eccentric. He asked himself to ascribe wants and needs to an inanimate object? Orikan thought not. By certain measures, a scarab was inanimate. So was a tomb wraith. A human cogitator, a string instrument. Yet they all had needs. Optimal operating environments, or maybe, just maybe, it was more than that. Orikan approached the device. Orikan approached the device, adjusting the gravitational signature to match the serenade, dialed up the temperature and humidity to match the surface, to fool it into thinking it did not sit in the dry chill of a Necron vessel. The surface was risky. Humans had infested the planet as they will. Too many eyes. He had not been down in centuries, apart from the short expeditionary. Apart from short expeditionary studies. Orbit, however, was another matter. He can only study the Mysterios in safety. Cool metal and angles, vertices and glyphs. Could such perfection ever be mindless? Orikan suspected not. During his centuries, he dissected and reverse engineered many machines, and knew that you cannot study a technology without, in some way, connecting with the mind of its creator. Devices were an expression of their maker's mind as much as any song or poem, and he had come to know Vishani. I don't know why I read it as some. I'm crazy. But he had never seen her until this moment. The first time she came to him, it was his meditations. This was not unusual. A cryptech's mind was a deep thing. It was easy to inadvertently create thought forms resembling old masters or colleagues. Indeed, Orikan had engaged in deep discussions with those long dead, or rather, had held great conversations with his engrammatic impressions of them. A good cryptech knew to be wary of such things. Let them run free, and fantasy can take them over from simulation. A hard master, lavishing you with praise. Debate opponents, giving into arguments too easily, admitting their stupidities, and naming you their better. And of course, it would mean that one was going mad. So, when Vashani came, Orikan was both delighted and skeptical. He kept her at arm's length. At first, she was a mere echo, couplets from her algorithmic poetry repeating in his mind, data points from her treatise? Or treatises? Data points from her treatises running, unprompted, through Orikan's logic processor. Not though, through. Then one day, she spoke. One word. No. He'd stopped reviewed his logic chain, and discovered an error. A single angle of the mysterious encoded in his algorithm as obtuse rather than acute. A major error that would have queered his star chart and fooled the decades of calculations. Okay, 3-minute ad break is going to start in like 5 minutes. And he sensed her hovering at the very edge of his perception suit. Not a physical form. There was nothing to see but a presence. He continued his centuries of work. The thought form would occasionally make itself known, suggesting nudging. Orikan was not so absurd to think that it was really Vashani, merely a subconscious logic routine projecting itself as external, providing a guide and sounding board, taking on a voice he respected, and Orikan respected so few voices. They pleased him. These visitations, whatever this logic routine was, and it must be buried deep since he could not find or isolate it. It had a rare insight into the device's operation. Perhaps the portion of his engrams building a dataset on Vashani had even gained low-level sentience at the level of a canoptic wraith. And his sensors pickled at this thought. Perhaps Vashani had inserted a portion of her own personality algorithm into the device. He'd acquired it over the centuries. He had certainly opened his own neural network to it when casting Ralek's grid of investigations. Which might explain why, in the dead god's name, she was standing behind his right shoulder now. He moved his head slowly, ocular retached, rechatted, ocular ratcheted, head. We're gonna skip it. I'm sorry. To maximum, in case she dissolved when he looked directly at her. If it was a manifestation of his own consciousness, it was a strange one, since Orikan had no bias for reconstructing what Vashani would have looked like. If Orikan had breath, it would have been caught. Such handiwork. Vashani's body was modified, efficient, a masterwork of astro engineering, reshaped in a bizarre way, almost as radically as a destroyer. But while the abominations rebuilt their bodies with a single-minded goal to exterminate, Vashani had reconfigured herself to acquire and analyze. She was a place built of knowledge. She was a palace built of knowledge. The Datamancer had a long cranium capped by a many-cabled headdress, its cylinders hanging in a perfect box around her monocular in the front. In the back, they trailed along to plug into the databank behind. And that databank was what was so striking. Her legs had been removed entirely. Her torso installed into a great lobster-like tail that held racked engram blades and logic tablets. 10 crustacean legs bore the weight of the extra bore the extra weight of the capacity. Then, just as he was able to make her out, she spoke. He's here. Orikan's oculars snapped open. He dropped from his hovering trance position to the deck. One head forming a low hunched tripod. Nothing moved. The Mysterios rotated suddenly in the air. Dozens of cryptex knelt at a pentagram pattern. The five-sided formation matching each flat face of the 12-sided Mysterios, handed across over their chests. Hands across over their chests, hands down, murmuring esoteric code. So many minds, Orikan realized. For Trazyn to infiltrate, he stepped forward, scrying the group with his ocular and sensor suit, quietly twisting his left hand to cast hex algorithm that would jump from cryptech to cryptech, scoring their neural networks for intrusion. One cryptech was out of step, hesitating, speaking the data chain as if instead of it running through his processing node, he were reading it from the surface thoughts of another. Okay, we're gonna stop right there for a second. The ad break is gonna happen. All right, we are actually almost done. So after the ad break, we literally have like 2 pages left. We literally have like 2 pages left, and then that's going to be it for this time and whatnot. Honestly, at this point, it's still pretty good. I'm enjoying my time reading this. I like how Orikan is taking so long to get used to the power. I also like how, like, not just like Orikan and Trazyn, but the Necrons in general, they take so long to like do things. I think it's probably because they're immortal and they can actually take the time to plan things out, like really, really well plan things out. Which is how, like, do you play Darktide? I do play Darktide. I have a friend who also plays Darktide. He has almost every single penance on Darktide. That man is crazy. But yeah, I think it's because like their long life, they take extra time to plan things out, which is a neat detail. Because like they're immortal, they can definitely take the time to plan things out. But like I really like how we're zooming past a lot of things. Like we zoomed past the Horus Heresy. Sweet Emperor. Yeah, honestly, Sweet Emperor. He is kind of insane. Mm-hmm. But we got less than a minute here on the 3-minute ad break on the Twitch side of things. So we are approaching the end of the stream. Yeah. But yeah, I am liking the Warhammer Wednesday like read along things. It's pretty cool. Yeah. Where am I from?
I'm from America. Ah, the ad break has ended. Welcome back, people. Let us finish these last 2 pages, and then I will give a quick reminder of how tomorrow's stream is going to go down, because it is a special one. All right, let's finish up our last 2 pages. Orikan passed him, staring into the oculars of the cryptech next to him. Cocking his head, sending out a visible scribe beam as if inspecting its data flow. Fast as a viper, he grasped the tardy cryptech's throat, lifted him into the air, caring not about striking a blow with his staff. He manifested the weapon with the haft phasing into reality halfway through the hanging Necron's vitals. Inept as ever, Trazyn, he cackled, twisting the staff to provoke deeper systemic damage. Your brutal games of dress-up are unconvincing at best of times, but thinking you could mimic one initiated into the technomantic mysteries was arrogant even by your high standard. A being cannot impersonate what it cannot understand. No, said Trazyn. That is why I used a decoy. He was standing by the observatory window, the Mysterios in his hand. He tossed and caught it once, then winked and leveled the other hand towards Orikan as if it were a pistol. For a moment, that's what it appeared to be. Merely an insulting gesture. One finger out, one thumb crooked like a hammer, and then Orikan saw the detonator. Oh, no, wait, no. Merely an insulting gesture. One finger out, thumb cocked like a hammer. Then Orikan saw the detonator. Behind Trazyn, an implosive scarab scampered up the crypto fields and climbed to the surface. Rune indicators green. The haughty bastard was going to blow himself into space. Into space, the fastest exit. Orikan dialed back his chronosense, slowed time to a near stop, saw the long thumb descending. He did not throw the staff at tomorrow. Nothing thrown could achieve the velocities the staff did as it sailed headpiece. Yeah, as it sailed headpiece first across the meditation chamber. It had happened on the planet below. It would have broken the sonic barrier, sending an echoing crack across the entire chamber. But there was no atmosphere a non-Necron tomb ship could to compress. 10,000 souls aboard, and not one had lungs. Instead, it merely streaked across the chamber. Straight and fast as a las bolt. It passed 17 microns above the trigger button and severed Trazyn's thumb. The disconnected digit spinning upward as if the staff continued into the archivist's chest cavity, shattering the Nihilak Ankh on his sternum. Metal ribs, tinted royal aquamarine, tore and parted before the glowing emerald of the staff's headpiece. Vital systems smashed and reactor fluid sizzled on the weapon's ultra-cold power field. Trazyn folded, and the blade striking his spine and snapping him further into his eternal hunch. The archivist fell to his knees, hands opening to spill the detonator and Mysterios.
Orikan scooped up the Mysterios with one hand and grabbed the staff with the other. Driving it deep into his rival, he would start the phase anytime, reforged on Solomon's or hopping to one of those damned surrogates of his. Before that happened, Orikan wanted him to feel every moment of his humiliation. He sent a pulse of pure time-space through the staff, showing the injuries, making Trazyn feel it. You are a poor guest, Trazyn, he wielded. Not much has changed, I see. Whenever you denied at the palace, I always told the Pharaon to count the dinnerware afterwards. But like, Trazyn struggled to talk. Reactor fluid, boiling yellow, was leaking from between his steel teeth. A good guest. His voice dissolved in a hack purge routine. A good guess? Orikan twisted the staff deeper to a halt. Orikan twisted the staff deeper to halt any repair protocols. No, a good guest brings good conversation, and you are so quiet now, Trazyn. Why ever would that be? Good guest, Trazyn, smiling, bring gifts. Then he faced spots and incandescent jade light breaking out on him like swords. Swords that unmade him, when winding to reveal nothing inside their expanding borders but the crystal window and decading behind. Alrighty. We are done. We have reached page 150. You have to go study. Okay. Go on and study. Study hard and get smart. For that is very important in this day and age. Studying and getting smart. Now then, it is time for us to close out. What? What do you want? Gosh. Always barging in. Always barging in. Alright. It is time for us to end stream. However, I do want to put up a little bit of a reminder. Tomorrow's stream is going to be on Twitch only. So if you haven't followed, there is a link in the description of the stream right now. You can go ahead and click that and give it a follow. I will be doing I will be reacting to memes submitted by the Discord. So if you wish to submit your own memes, you can also go down to the link below on both Twitch and YouTube and join the Discord. However, you must be 18 and over to do so, but you can submit anything you want, and if you make me laugh, you will get a special role on the server. But other than that, that is going to have to be it for the stream. I hope you all have enjoyed this reading of The Infinite and Divine. I surely have. I'm really liking the wacky adventures between these two guys. Oh, okay. You're going to block the tracking. Thank you, kitty. But yeah, again, Twitch only stream. Not going to be on YouTube. Okay, so be sure to give Twitch a follow. And other than that, I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.